Samsung Galaxy Note 10 after 72 hours. I don't know about you, but I'm not in love. Hey there, friends on YouTube. My name is Jason. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. If this is your first time here and you want to come on back again, then you can do that by liking and subscribing and bell notifying yourself so that when I do more painfully honest videos like this one, then you will know. My experience over the last few days has been weird. On one hand, there's so much to like and be impressed with when it comes to the Note 10 Plus, but I also can't escape the feeling that somehow the bloom is off the rose with this phone. In a lot of ways, I feel like I did when I first got to handle the phone at the launch event a few weeks ago. It's a good phone, but it doesn't feel like the notes of days past for some reason. There's no, wow, I have to have that feature that wasn't already on the Note phones before, and there are still some quirks and annoyances that have kept me from really sinking into the Note 10 like an old, oversized hoodie or some other kind of metaphor. I guess that's a simile, but you know what I'm talking about. Before we get into all of that stuff, let's talk about what I really like about this phone so far. Mind you, this video shouldn't be taken in any way as my comprehensive review or final thoughts on this phone. It's just my experiences as I move into the phone. My opinion may change over the next week or so. The Note is unlike any other phone. There's so much that you have to learn and get used to with these phones that just isn't the case on a lot of other Android phones. So first off, let's talk about what I like. Everything. Well, almost everything that I've loved about Note phones is here, and some things have been pushed to the background after years of having them shoved in our faces, and so that's really good. The screen is just freaking unbelievable. I can't bring across in words, and it's likely not coming across in this video, how good this screen looks. But it does. It does. It looks really good, and every time I move back into a Samsung device, I'm just impressed as hell by the screen, and this one is no different. You're not going to find a better screen on any other phone right now. As I mentioned, there are some features that have been pushed to the back that had been pushed into our faces previously, and what I'm talking about here is Bixby. Now we don't have a dedicated Bixby button this time. We do have a side button here. We don't have a side button on the right side. We got volume rocker. We got side button. Now Bixby can be launched with this button on a long press, but I have changed mine to show the power options instead. So that's a win for just about everybody who wasn't a fan of Bixby, which is maybe close to everybody. I know there are some people who like it, but I've tried. I never really got into it. One UI is still the best skin Samsung has laid over top of Android in all the years it's been making phones, but I kind of felt like the icons in this iteration were a little too balloony, and overall the look of them was too pastel-y for me. I didn't feel this way about One UI when I used it on the S10 Plus earlier this year, so I can only chalk it up to the larger screen. I don't know, it bothered me from the moment I booted up the phone for the first time. Your mileage may vary, but that was just my initial reaction. Another thing I like, this thing could theoretically replace your computer, your laptop, all that kind of stuff, theoretically. Between being able to use Bluetooth keyboard and mouse just on the phone, and also the DeX function, which I haven't really gotten to dig into yet, the use with the mouse and a keyboard turns it into like a tiny computer. Anything light duty, especially if you use Google production apps or something like that, you'd need nothing else if you were on the go. And of course, we have to talk about the overall build quality. While there are some quirks here and there, this is maybe the nicest phone that you're gonna get. It's just built so well. It feels so nice in the hand, ladies. Just the fit and finish of it is impeccable. There's nothing about it that just really, there's no problems here. There's no problems. Like I said, screen great. The feel of the rails on the side is great. The back is just silky smooth and nice. There's really nothing wanting about the build of this phone, and Samsung over the years has gotten better and better and better at that, which is good because they weren't very good at it to begin with, and now they're up there with, I guess the benchmark is always the iPhone for build quality, and they're right up there with the iPhones now in terms of build quality. This phone being a particularly good example. Now, finally, the last good thing that I want to talk about that I've experienced over the last 72 hours, and this is no surprise, there's the S Pen, which honestly is the only reason to buy this phone over the Galaxy S10 Plus. Yes, this is 0.4 inches bigger than the S10 Plus, so maybe you need those 0.4 inches, but does that justify the several $100s you would have to pay to get the Note 10 Plus over the S10 Plus? No, I mean, the S Pen is still the killer feature on the Note 10, and Samsung's crammed a bunch of stuff into this over last year's Bluetooth support and the stuff they had then. This year, the S Pen has a bigger battery, so it stays working over longer periods of time outside of the phone. There are gestures you can use in the camera app and elsewhere. I find the air gestures useless, so while improvements are nice and the build quality is improved, the S Pen is pretty much, to me, as it's always been, an amazing little addition that is still the feature that separates the Note phones from any other phone. And that, my friends, is probably where we should transition to some of the aspects of the Note that have kept me from instantly just falling in love. First, the headphone jack. The removal of the headphone jack. Save your get over it comments. Whether you want to admit it or not, there's still a ton of value that the headphone jack brings to the table for lots of people, and it's really impacted my feeling about the Note 10 Plus as a hardcore productivity, creativity device. Yes, Bluetooth headphones have come a long way since whenever, but they are still nowhere near as good as wired headphones. And for those of us who want to have our music sound as good as possible on our mobile device, removing the jack has made the Note 10 Plus a lesser phone. Add to that the impact it has on creators, a group of folks that Samsung was clearly targeting at their launch event with this phone. Michael Fisher, the Mr. Mobile, points out in his review of the phone, creators often want to use external mics for video and audio type purposes, and removing the jack has removed the option unless you want to spend even more money on some kind of USB microphone. I don't even know if that exists yet, and if it does, you shouldn't have to buy more stuff to work with the phone that you just bought. This makes Samsung feel even more like Apple than they have to this point, and that's just disappointing, to say the least. Removing features to force you to buy other stuff just doesn't sit well with me. Next is another issue that has plagued me with Samsung phones over the past several years, for the past several generations: phantom touches. There is even less bezel on this phone than on previous Notes, and the sides are very thin, very, very thin, where the glass meets the aluminum chassis. And yes, I've turned on Samsung's option in the settings that is supposed to mitigate the problem, but it hasn't. The next step is to download Samsung's Good Lock app from the Galaxy Store, which I did, and that gives you the ability to adjust even more the space that you have to avoid false touches. But still, if Samsung has to put a toggle in the settings and then develop an entire other app that helps mitigate this false touch problem, something is just not right. That's a design flaw it's a design flaw, period. I'm to the point where if I'm watching a YouTube video, I dare not turn it from portrait to landscape, because I will end up accidentally selecting one of the suggested videos below the video as I do, and it just drives me crazy. I can't see how Samsung hasn't paid more attention to this problem. I guess that's the price we pay for no bezels, but really it hinders my enjoyment of the phone. Finally, the last element of the Note 10 Plus that's bothering me after 72 hours is this just doesn't feel special. Yes, on its own, in a bubble, it's an incredible powerhouse of a phone that has really no rival in terms of sheer number of features and options. But since I can't really look at this phone on its own in a bubble, I have to compare it to my experiences with other Notes and other phones in the past. I always get excited around Note release time. Every year, the Note has been Samsung's showcase for everything it can do, and in years past, that was a lot of new stuff compared to what they'd come out with before, compared to the competition. Hell, in years past, the Note phone was usually so feature-packed that Samsung's own phones from earlier that year couldn't really and didn't really compete. It was its own thing. The Note was its own thing. But this year, finally, a lot of the others have caught up. They may not have all the specs of the Note 10 Plus, but they're close enough to make buying this Note a harder decision this year. On one hand, it's everything you could want in an Android phone, but as the competition has gotten closer and they offer options hundreds of dollars less expensive than the Note 10 Plus, even the Note 9 is a better value than the Note 10 Plus right now. The excitement I used to feel when I opened the box on a new Note, the hours I spent digging into all the stuff that it could do, none of this has really been there and got me going the way it has in the past this year. I find myself missing other phones that I recently used, like the LG V50 and others. Simply put, for the first time, I'm not immediately in love with the Note 10 Plus. It's everything it should be, but it feels like it's not enough this time around. Yes, there's the S Pen, but honestly, in these first few days, I've only taken the S Pen out a couple of times. I have to retrain myself to use it. I haven't tried air gesturing or air doodling or whatever, and I likely won't, because why? My feeling might change over the next week or so as I assimilate the Note into my life a little bit more. I wrote this whole script using a Logitech Craft keyboard and MX Master mouse paired to the phone, and it was a pretty good experience. As I said, I'm going to give Dex a spin and get you some thoughts on that. So if you're not already subscribed and you want to know more about my experiences with this phone and Dex and all that kind of stuff, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, etc., etc. Notify yourself so you'll get the message when my full review of the Galaxy Note 10 Plus comes out. If you've been part of the Painfully Honest ecosystem for a while and you want to find out how you can support the channel a little bit, then hit that join button. If the button's not there, hit the link in the description. There's a ton of cool perks that you get with membership, and I would really... it goes a long way to helping me out. At any rate, thanks to one and all for stopping by. And as they used to say on Hee Haw, y'all come back now, you hear? Until the next time, my name's Jason. This is Painfully Honest Tech, your home for tech. So honest it hurts. Until the next time, I'm out.